So you should have that in your inboxes. We are just gonna follow the same procedure as usual with our press conferences. So please raise your hand to ask a question, and what we will do is at the end just send the recording of the media conference to you all. So yeah, please raise your hands if you have any questions, and we can get cracking. Justin.
Thank you, Zina. Good afternoon, Coach. The question for you, a bit more time allowed with the team and the squad, the bigger squad, post, obviously that other match last week. Sort of what were the key focus areas for you guys ahead of the Bristol match this Thursday, please?
Yeah, Justin, I think the key thing for us is, of course, to get better from where we were last week, and like I said last week also, it was not an excuse. We knew the challenge that we will have, that we won't have all the time in the world to prepare, So at least now we've managed to get 2 more extra days to be able to add on how we want to play, So it is what it is. So I won't make any excuse about it. So the key thing for us was to get better on the things that we did last week, more especially if you look at how we attacked. When we got an opportunity to get a 22-meter entry on Munster's field, the forwards, they really had a proper game, and how they carried in the meters and how physically they were dominating. I think where we were guilty was the game management. I'm talking about we put ourselves in the right places. I think we tried to play too much rugby in our half, and the conditions also didn't allow, and then we made silly errors there. And that put us under pressure, and we committed some penalties. The discipline was also not solid, and to give a team like Munster 22-meter entry, you're always going to be under pressure when it comes to the lineouts, and that's exactly what happened. So we're going to have to make sure that we get better in that department for when it comes to kicking game.
Guys, I just forgot to mention a little earlier is that Stick's comments are for use today, and Grant's comments will be embargoed for tomorrow, just so that you've got fresh content for tomorrow as well. So please just note that if you don't mind. Next question, Carl.
Coach, the changes you made rotational, or do you have other game plans or other plans that up your sleeve?
I think it's a bit of both, There are positions where I thought, what, I also need to give other guys an opportunity because we've only got 2 games, And then on the other side also, if you look at the guys that came off the bench, Grant Williams sitting next to me, I think he had a massive impact in the game, So I think that was why now he's promoted to be in the starting lineup. And you look at the forwards, I think the changes at hooker, Joseph Dweba currently is on standby for the Springbok main side, because of Malcolm Max has got a bit of a knock in his quad. So Joseph, that's why he's not in the team. I think he's on standby on that side. And then if you look at the guys on the bench, a guy like JJ Kotze was not involved in the team last week. And then Mornay also, Smith also, I think it's fair also to give them some game time, And if you look at a guy like Sazi Sandi, unfortunately, didn't make the cut this week. Came off the bench last week, had a massive impact, And I know it's tough for him maybe not to be in the team, but once again, I wanted to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to showcase what they can do.
Adnan?
Thanks, Zina. How's it, Stick and Grant? Just a question. Salam, brother. Just a question for Stick. The combination of Grant and obviously Shasha, it's quite an exciting combination. You just mentioned now when Grant came on, he made a massive impact with his speed, and then just the excitement that Shasha also brings to the party with in that combination.
Yeah, I think, for example, more especially if you look at both guys have been with the Springbok setup, they understand how we want to play. I think that's going to be the key thing with that combination, because like I said, we were guilty last week where we didn't manage the game very well, So with Grant knowing our philosophy and knowing how we want to play things, knowing what it takes to be at the top, So I think that's going to be a biggest challenge for them. Yes, we do know they've got an X factor, and I always encourage players to bring what makes them special, So, but the key thing for me is when you play in the Northern Hemisphere, you need to make sure that you also play the conditions very well, So that's going to be the biggest challenge for those two. And but once again, the X factor is always welcome from our side, and I'm excited to see what they can do also, and I know Grant has been with us at the Springboks where he's been waiting for his opportunity. So I was actually happy to see him bringing that impact in the game last week. Sasha was with the Springbok. He traveled back with me yesterday the whole day, and for him also, for him to get game time, hopefully they will be in a position to be selected for that England game, that last test match on tour.
Adnan?
Yeah, thanks. Just to follow up on that, Grant, have you played with Sasha before, and how do you think the combination will go?
No, this is actually the first time, and I personally think that it's just about, like Coach Stick said, playing the conditions well and then managing the game. Yeah, so I think we'll probably have our first training session together today, and then we'll wait and see how.
Thank you.
Justin?
Grant, just for you as well, you've been exposed to the Springbok setup before, having, been capped as well. How's it for the other players around you that are now exposed to the Springbok way? How have you felt they've, accepted or sort of just learnt, how the Boks do things, and what has it meant for them, as you being one that has been capped already?
First of all, I think it's still massive to be selected for this squad. I mean, what you guys need to understand is we're a bunch of guys coming from different unions, so everyone's buying into the system. And for me personally, I've been with the Springboks, so for me it's much easier. But I think everyone's just so excited for the opportunity to be here, and I'm sure everyone will buy in.
Kanyiso?
Thank you very much, Zina. I'll ask in this Xhosa if it's not an issue. Bomoy, man, Thembi yaphila man. Ngobona kwamakhasi onxibelelwano bathi uJoseph eqoqoshe kahle kakhulu nomdlalo wakhe ngokujula kwi-line out nalapha ebabaleni. Yintoni ebeyenzileyo kwesithutyana sincinci esikwazi ukuqoqosha umdlalo wakhe, and bakufumaniseka uba ke uyadlala ke ngole nto ngomgqibelo for Amabhokobhoko, izawuba bilintoni igalelo lakhe kulaa mdlalo, kuba bekhe ndatsho nakuba khange ndiwubukele laa mdlalo.
Khanyiso tata, ndivuyele kakhulu indlela uJoseph adlale ngayo last week, as abantu abaninzi ke besazi bethanda ubeka ipressure kuye nge-line outs. Ke siyazi kaloku uba njengomdlalo odlala phaa ku-number 2, yabona i-primary job yakho zi-line outs also, and phaa u-physical kakhulu, unamandla, indoda noko ethi xa ikheri ibhola iqonde phambili, yabona. Besimvuyela kwi-conditions ke, iwesi kwi-conditions ebesikuzo last week, because bekukho umoya omkhulu kakhulu phaa kule ndawo besidlala kuyo neMunster, nemvula ebingekho right, kodwa ke indlela abazimaneje ngayo iset-pieces zethu, yabona, bendivuyela kakhulu for uJoseph, and whatever ayenzileyo apha suka khona iyamsebenzela. Hopefully bawuzathi carry on, improve kuyo, but siyamazi kodwa ke mfana around the park, wena tata, ba mfana noko namandla, kwafuneka i-front football iyakwazi usinika sile-team yethu. So yeah, I was very happy to ubona uJoseph adlala kahle kakhulu.
Impendulo yakho mhlekazi. Ulahle kancinci le mpendulo yakho, ngathi kukhona uqhaqho okwenzekileyo.
Okay, uyandiva?
Yakuba
Justin?
Okay. Wait, Fantonder.
Oh, was that another question?
Kanyiso apparently said that you didn't hear what I was saying, so it got cut a bit. Should I repeat again, Kanyiso?
Yeah, ungaphinda mhlekazi.
Okay, ndithi tata bendimvuyela kakhulu umntwana uJoseph indlela adlale ngayo, yabona. Khumbule kaloku uba noko i-primary umsebenzi wakhe njengehuka afuneka kaloku uqale lapha kwi-line outs, yabo tata. Siyamazi around the park uJoseph umfana odlala kakuhle kakhulu onamandla, xa kufuneke siqonde phambili asinike i-front football uqela usinika yona kakuhle, yabona. So into ebebalulekileyo kweza conditions besikuzo, besiyazi uba kuzawuba nzima, but kodwa ke xa ndijonga wine ngayo i-line outs, I think it was 100%. Bendimvuyela kakhulu, yabona, and hopefully mhlawumbi if bangaba i-injuries phakathi kwamabhokobhoko njengoba i-standby, mhlawumbi uyalufumana ithuba lakhe kaloku kwezi last 2 games. Ndiyamvuyela kakhulu indlela adlale ngayo kodwa tata.
Thank you.
Nathan?
Thank you, Zina. Coach Stick, I just got one in English, then a couple in this course later if there's time. Last week I mentioned the impact of not having an open side flanker. You included Escom there at 6 this week. Do you feel with the 6-2 split you have covered all the bases in terms of backups on the bench, especially in the back line?
Nathan Tata ukhumbula kaloku Mark Van Staden.
Angaphendula ngesilungu tata man zikhona
Oh, you want English first? Oh, I thought you said Xhosa. Okay, no, it's fine. Now, remember, when it comes to Ulendo Marco van Staden, he was supposed to be in the Springbok squad, but he had a rib problem, so he wasn't going to be able to play last week, so I think now with an extra week, he managed to recover well. So we heard a report from our team doctor, Jerome Mampane at the Springboks, that he should be able to play for this week for us, So that's why it was an easy call for us to bring him in, So it's not because of he was not with us last week because of we didn't want him. If he was available to play, surely we would have had him in our squad. So it's always nice to have someone like him. I know perhaps he did a great job last week also at open side. He'll be on the bench still covering also open side. But Marco van Staden, I think he's recovered from his rib injury. And if it wasn't for that injury, he would have also played last week. So I'm very happy to have him in our squad. And once again, I think the conditions here, they're going to suit him very well, because he's played here last year and he knows the conditions very well. And, if you don't have the weather condition doesn't allow you to play too much running rugby, he'll be able to put pressure for us on the breakdowns, to the opposition, because we also know a team like Bristol wants to keep the ball in hand. So I think it'll be massive for us on defense.
The second part of that question was based on the fact that your bench, do you feel that it will your backline will be covered?
I think if you look at the challenges we had last week, like I said to you, is that the game was more physical up in front, and I felt like, with the reserves we had, if you remember last week, we had Grant Williams as a 9 and covering the wing, and then we also had Sanele covering 9 and 10. I think now if you're talking about having a proper proper bench, the forwards that we've got now with Matras joining us, I think it makes sense to have Sanele covering 9 and 10, and then also having a guy like Johan Hussein covering 10 and 15 with the Sasha, who can also roam between 10 and 12, and Cornell. So I think the more balanced team that we could have had was to go for 6-2 split. Otherwise, that means I would have if I had to go now to 5-3, that means I must select Herschel on the bench again, and then you'll have 2 9s again. So I think the more balanced team now for this game is to have those forwards. And once again, to what we expect from Bristol, they're going to try to keep the ball in hand. That means they're going to challenge our forwards. So we'll probably need some fresh legs later on in the game.
Justin?
Thanks, Z. Grant, for you, Coach Jacques Nienaber has mentioned, praised, the strength of the scrum of possession we have in the country at the moment. For you, does that motivator, or the fact that there's so much competition, does it kind of work as negative in a way as well?
I always take it as something positive, Justin. For me, it's more about the better the competition, the better I get personally. So obviously, we all know the depth we have at Scrum Off. For me, it's just about getting out there, enjoying myself, and play some good rugby.
Adnan?
Thanks, Zina. Just for Stick, you mentioned the playing conditions. Pat Lam from Bristol Bears, he's got obviously a New Zealand background. They like to play or throw the ball around. Do you think that they will, they can adapt to the situation because they play there more often than you guys, or how do you see it going with the style of play?
No doubt change how they play, because remember they live here, they spend probably almost 90% of their training time in those conditions. They're used to those conditions. So for them, it's not a challenge to play in the wet conditions, So I don't think they're going to move away from their DNA. When it comes to New Zealand philosophy, they always want to keep ball in play. And you also look at a couple of their players in their team, they've got a squad. So I don't think they'll move away from it. And the conditions, like if you saw also last week, the brilliant tries that were scored by Munster, where they could send the ball into space, where sometimes us, when we wanted to send the ball wide into spaces, there were a lot of errors there, bad passes, and then also drop passes. So it shows that we're not used to the conditions, even though, yes, it's good now we've got our URC teams playing in the Northern Hemisphere, but probably it's going to pay off in the future. But for now, I think we're still behind it. So I doubt Bristol will change how they want to play the game.
Can you so?
Okay, I'll
Can
ask.
you-
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
No, it's fine. I'll ask. Let's ask. Plastic. Kasicacele manje ngokungena kuka Sasha Feinberg ngomyezulu nolwefuna uyibona manje kuye kumdlalo wakhe, especially uba mhlawumbi imeko zingatshintsha, ilight ekhulele eKapa, idlalela eBristol, idlala la ifunda eBishops, kulaa mimoya yaseKapa nalaa mvula yaseKapa. Nje kasicacele oluvuyo mani unalo ngobona le ntwana ke izawuke ikhipha ntsule mani ngesiXhosa saselokishini.
Kanyiso ndiyayivuyela mna iWest xa abafana abancane xa befumana i-opportunity. Siyamazi kaloku uSasha ngumfana one-potential kakhulu, simbonile indlela abelitsha ngayo nakwi-junior Springboks. Ngumfana noko kubonakalisa uba nentloko yakhe ubuchopho bakhe buphilile, uyabona wona tata. So into esithina esinqwenelayo kubo, like uGrant ebetshilo earlier on, was first things first, bangakwazi na uyimanage igame njengoba sewutshile ke noko yena ii-conditions zaseKapa now and then ebeqhela uzifumana lo mfana, yabo. So into ebalulekileyo kubo wena bhuti is not to say babangadlali took strengths zabo. Into ebalulekileyo kokuqaleni kaloku uze ukhumbule uba i-rugby it's a team sport. So into ebalulekileyo kufuneke noko bacingele nee-forwards zethu bakwazi uzibeka kumhlaba orayithi, and then xa belapho bayazazi ke noko i-freedom banayo abafana ba xa amathuba evela bakwazi uwasebenzisa. And ngumfana noko endithi xa ndimbonile indlela bedlala ngayo kwiStormers, khumbula uke wadlala nakunumber 12, ikubonakalisa into enkulu ke leyo kulo mfana ba noko ngumfana oqine kakhulu, okwaziyo nokuyimela into yakhe naxa kufuneka kube physical uyakwazi udlala loo ndima. And ndiyamvuyela, ndithi hopefully bazakwazi udlala kakhe nje-combination. And also xa ujonga outside yena uba nomfana onjengoCornell, uyabona umfana no-experience okudala noko wayihamba le mihlaba. I think yeyona nto izawukwenza uba itimu yethu ibhalanse kakuhle, because uyayibona noko i-experience ikhona ne-potential kabafana abancane ikhona phaa. So ndiyabavuyela bakwazi ukufumana ithuba nabo.
Carl?
Coach, I almost said the Beckham twins. The Dupree twins made a very big impact when they came on against Munster. And I mean, they disappeared from the South Africa or the Springbok scene and everything. Do you see them playing a bigger role in future, or is it going to be back to the normal?
That those guys are they're gonna play in big games in the future, no doubt at all. Every time when they got an opportunity, they always lift their hands up. So I know at the moment they're not in a mix with the Springboks, but once again, you can never question their potential. You can never question how they play the game, and they always bring massive physical impact in the game. And you saw exactly what happened last week with Jael starting the game. He was one of the key players in giving us that momentum in the game. And then when he came off the bench with the guys like Skumbuza, the impact they've got, I'm talking with ball in hand now and giving us that momentum. And even when we were required to defend, they put some physical tackles in that game. So no doubt at all that they will play more test matches in the future, because I know they've got a bright future ahead of themselves.
Adnan?
Zena, can I ask Grant a question in Afrikaans?
You may.
Fatom, Adnan, Fatom.
Ja, Grant, jy is afkomstig van die Parel, jy is 'n boring van die Parel. As ek kyk na die spanne of die spanlede, daar's ouetjies soos Gianni Lombard, ek dink daar's 'n 2 jaar ouderdomsverskil tussen julle twee. Jy was by Paul, Jim, hy was by Paul Boys. Wat is dit van die Parel wat so baie Springbokke oplewer, en dan is daar nog Kurt Lee en daar's so baie Salman, almal van julle.
Adnan, om jou te antwoord, ek dink goeie skole, harde werk en 'n bietjie lak, dink ek. Ek dink dis seker maar die rede hoekom ons hier is vandag, en ik denk, zoals je gesê het, Gianni is ook 'n exciting player en ja, ek sien net uit om met almal te speel en net die game te geniet. Ek dink dat is die grootste ding. Soms dwaal ons weg van dit af en ek dink dit is massive om net uit te gaan, om dit te gaan geniet en iets groot te maak van die moment.
Dankie.
Nathan?
Pomoyi, hamba njani amalungiselelo for lo mdlalo kunye neBristol xa abadlali bane bengene bephume as utshilo uJoseph unyuselwe usesha wehla apha kuni?
Tata, into endiyithandayo ke mna nangoku kwakuqaliswa ii-plans for le tour, yabona, I was always part of iland eza plans njengabaqeqeshi beSpringbok. So besiyazi, besilindele le nto uba izawuba khona utshintshwano now and then, yabo. Ukhumbule kaloku into yokuqala uba baziSpringbok, yabona, eziza kuqala basiselekte zona. So ezinye ii-players ezi-available thina sithathe apho kuzo. So I don't think ukhona umqeqeshi onothi xa enikwa ithuba basebenze nabafana abanjengosasha abasuka kwiSpringboks phezulu anganoluthatha elo thuba. So into ebesiyilindele wena tata loo nto. So asizokwazi uba senze i-excuse ngayo sithi uba hayi itimu iyatshintsha iphinde ithini. Besiyazi uba izinto ezaba njalo. Le nto uba abafana bafumana amathuba, yabo. Ukhumbule kaloku uba abafana abaninzi baphefomile kwi-URC and kube nzima sometimes ufumana ithuba xa kudlalwa kule nto kwiSpringboks, yabona. uGrant kudala edlala ephakuthi kwiSpringboks, yabona, zange alifumane ithuba because iline inde, yabo. So ndiyavuma xa naye xa ekwazi ukufumana ithuba ke-SA azibonakalise and without no doubt at all bakhona abafana abaninzi abazawuthi banyuke bahambe bayodlala phaa kwiSpringboks. Nabafana abanjengoThomas kudala besesistemini but abafumana ithuba because of i-competition i-type phezulu. But kodwa ke into ebalulekileyo ukuthi sithi sibanike ithuba abadlali baleni phakathi. So kuzafuneka nabo bazibonakalise noko ngabaqeqeshi bamabhokobhoko.
Cool, guys. Is that it, Nathan? Do you have another question?
Yes, one more, Zina, please.
Yo, Nathan, last one, eh? Here it's a Nathan conference. It's not a press conference.
I apologize, Zina. Nifaka tshwala ntwana usesha phambi koRhoseni ngeziphi isizathu niqalise la jongwana phambi ko la uRhoseni?
Kaloku ukhumbule wena Nathan, ne, xa umuntu esuka kwiSpringbok phaa phezulu ephaa kwiSpringboks, xa eziswa phaa kuthi ba noko bakhona imiyalelo bakufuneke bebonakalile bafumane i-game time, because uzukhumbula kaloku bona bafumana if banofumana i-game time bazibonakalise banethuba bangathini bangadlala against England, because kaloku zikhona abadlali abangazuphumelela phaa kulaa match. Uzukhumbula abafana abadlala apha e-UK abazukwazi ukudlala laa match because of it's out of window, yabona. So usasha ke yena because of singamabhokobhoko baphezulu sithi sathi bamasimisa sabezantsi bekubalekile ba afumane na i-game time. uJohan Goosen umbonile last week ebeyifumene ixesha lakhe and usekhona eqeleni nasebhentshini, but siyibonile besifuna ubona kuye. Nangoku into ebalulekileyo sikwazi kaloku uphusasha ithuba sibone bangakwazi na uperforma naye kakuhle na.
Adnan?
Yeah, so just the last thing from me, Zina, Stick, if you look at the players that you have in the side and the skill set and the ability to attack and also in this, the side that played on Saturday against that loss, but everybody looked at that game and said, you guys gave an excellent performance. And looking at where they attack from, is that perhaps something going forward that you guys will look at in building on your game plan, where you also attack, when it's on from your own half?
I think Adnan, the same goes with the review that we had with the SAA squad against Munster. We spoke about the opportunity that we've created in the game, and it felt like for me as a coach, the guys didn't really look excited, and it's something that we always encourage them to look for those opportunities and to get excited, because that's actually the reason that made them who they are. And if you look at the guys on the outside, guys like Lelo Zas and Suleiman, those guys, it's players that whenever they get the ball in hand, they always get some energy, But I felt like last week we didn't really get that. I don't know, maybe the occasion was just too much for them or too big for them, but that is spoke about it, to look for opportunities. When it's on for them to take the ball wide, they must take it. So yes, it's part of our plan and we always want to grow into it.
Cool,
Thank
guys,
you.
we'll take a last question from Ross, and then I just have one for Grant, so that we've got extra more content for tomorrow. So Ross, you go.
Thanks, Ina. How's it, guys? How's the stocker?
Was
All good in yourself. With the struggles of the Boks with their 2 losses on tour and you guys last week, has that added a bit of extra pressure to this game? To try and get one up for the national side now on this end of year tour. And then I think you might have answered part of the question from Nathan there. That my other question on. Were you not wanting to get a bit more game time into Johan, with another start there?
Yeah, first things first, being involved in the Springbok setup, and wearing a Springbok jersey for the players and also being involved as a coach, there's always a pressure. Our country, how passionate people are when it comes to the Springbok environment, so we know we're always under pressure, and then second thing, us being on tour and not getting the results, I think I can't fault our players, the way we fought against France, and being for 70 minutes, the way we played with 14 men, and then also at some stage where we had 13 guys on the field. So we can't really fault the commitment our players they showed in that game. And then unfortunately, certain calls didn't go our way, and we know it's part of the game, and there's nothing we can do about the match officials, So I think we must just give credit to our players, even though we were all disappointed at losing, but the way we've lost the game, I think we really, really gave it all. We gave it all. We wanted to win the game so badly, but certain things are not in our control. So yeah, once again we were disappointed, but we'll keep fighting to get those results. Once again, yes, we understand we're under pressure. We need those results, but in a Springbok jersey, you're always under pressure. And then what was the second one?
Johan
Quist.
Oh, about giving the guys the opportunity again to play as a team. Yeah, you know what? We only got 2 games on Cambros, so it's tough to say, okay, I want to give other guys also second opportunity to build on what they've done in the first game. But on the other side, also it will be unfair not to give the other guys that were also on the bench, an opportunity. So I don't think for me, I've got the luxury, to say I'm building, for games was about the results and also giving guys opportunities. So we didn't get the results in the first game, and then this one, the main goal for me was to give also other guys some opportunity to show what they can do also for us. But otherwise, I can't say and lie in front of people and say no, I'm trying to build. There's nothing that I'm building onto. We just want the results, and we want to also give players opportunities.
And then Grant, just lastly from my side, what are you expecting from Bristol?
Like Coach Stig said, they have a really good running game. We've seen how they run out of their own 22, and an exciting brand of rugby. So for us, it's just about controlling the territory game and being aware of what they throw at us.
Cool. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thanks, Stig and Grant. We'll be sending out the recording shortly. Have a lovely day. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.